Hey guys, I'm Sage Valentine and I'm back to do another review of The Walking Dead. This time I'm reviewing Season 6, Episode number 10, entitled The Next World. So the timeline was sped up 2 months. That's what they said on The Talking Dead. So it made a lot of sense. Also, I figured there was a bit of a time jump anyway because in the comic book, there are quite a few time jumps. In particular, there's going to be a pretty big one at the end of this season into season 7, but I won't spoil that for you guys. So, Talking Dead had a survey where they asked fans if the group should or should not trust Paul Jesus Monroe. I say they can trust him, but you can't go by me because I know all about the character, but he seems pretty trustworthy given that he didn't pull any weapons on the group. And even when he pulled that gun on Daryl, he just told him to duck so he could shoot that walker behind him. He never really tried to cause them any bodily harm, and that's exactly what he did in the comic book when he met up with the group who was on a run. I think it was in the winter time. And he was pretty civilized talking to them, but I mean, I understood that they couldn't trust him, but that whole exchange between them and Jesus's like karate type moves were pretty badass in my opinion. But just so you know, his introduction has now set into course a chain of events that will lead to Negan. And I know that Negan will appear in the season finale. However, I get the feeling that Negan might pop up earlier than that. The only thing is that we may not see his face. We might hear his voice. And I do believe that when Daryl blew up the Saviors in episode 9, there was a car in the background and it did see what happened. And it did report back to Negan, which means Negan is coming. Given that the group is about to reach the hilltop, then exactly what happened in the comic book is going to happen on the television show. It's about time that Rick and Daryl had an excellent adventure, and through this adventure, they were able to bond. They came across Jesus, who double-crossed them, and had them thinking walkers were coming, and then he had set up these fireworks, and next thing you know, he's driving off with their truck with all of the supplies and the vending machine attached to the back of the truck, which was really important to Daryl because Denise asked him to get some soda for Tara because Tara was talking about it in her sleep. Now, there's something I wanted to talk about in terms of Denise and Tara, but I'm going to talk about that after I talk about Rick and Michonne. But back to Daryl and Rick. Now, as far as them chasing down Jesus, getting the truck back, then Jesus is on top of the truck. They stop the truck. He falls off. There's a whole tussle. Walkers appear. Jesus and Daryl tussle, and the next thing that you know, the truck is rolling down this hill into the water. I'm just like, great. And they're just like, ugh, like if we had met this dude, we'd have all these supplies for everybody. And when Daryl and Rick were able to, knock this dude out and stick him in the car with them and drive him back, I was cracking up because that actually does happen in the comic book, as well as the fact that they end up sequestering Jesus away from everybody else. I really feel for Spencer, and I'm glad that Michonne followed him into the woods because that was definitely something that he couldn't do alone. Like, it was hard enough for Carl to put down zombie Deanna, but then for Spencer to have to do it alone was pretty hard, and Michonne offered him moral support, and that's exactly what he needed. And I really felt bad when he said, my family is gone. Alexandria is just a place where I live. And then Michonne just told him, listen, I'm out here. I'm looking for you. So obviously I care for you. There's a place for you in Alexandria. It's your home. We are all your family. And I thought it was sweet when, after he put zombie Deanna down, he buried her, and then Michonne carved in a D into the tree where she was buried, I guess, so Spencer can go out there and, I guess, mourn over the body. Now let's talk about Carl. I feel like Maggie is going to become a mother figure for Enid, the way she becomes a mother figure, she and Glenn actually, for Sophia in the comic book. But the thing about Enid is that Enid has changed after everything that's happened. She feels more comfortable, more safe, and it feels like she's going out in the woods at this point with Carl just to be with Carl. But she tells him, like, I no longer want to do this anymore. Meanwhile, Carl sees Michonne and Spencer walking in the woods, and then he sees this walker, and he pulls out his gun because he wants to protect Michonne. And that gave me this impression that he sees Michonne as some sort of mother figure. He sees her as family. So what happens is that Enid is trying to tell Carl, let's just go, before the walker even makes it towards them, which gives me the impression that this walker is a familiar face. And then it dawns on me, like, this walker is probably Deanna, because I thought about it and I'm like, you know what, we never saw Deanna's walker self die. Just saying. So Carl kind of like upsets Enid by telling her, well, you wanted to go, so why don't you just go back inside? And she's heartbroken because I feel like she really, really does like Carl. But at the same time, she's not liking how he's changing as a person. And he does change in the comics because of what happened with his eye. And that's a given, obviously, because it was a traumatic experience. I've always seen Michonne as a motherly figure for Carl. I started noticing that back in season 4. And one prime example had to be after that mess that happened with Joe's group, and Carl ran to Michonne and he clung to her, and then he fell asleep on her lap and she sat there stroking his hair. Michonne has always shown this motherly instinct, not only towards Rick, but towards Judy, especially after in season 3 when she finally held Judy, which means she finally faced the pain that she felt after what happened to little Andre. And then there was the revelation about what happened to Andre and how she told Carl. So it wasn't a big surprise to me that Carl would see her as family. Alrighty, so Rick and Michonne are now together. No, I don't think she's going to die, and you can't use Lori and Jesse as an example because Lori died via birth complications, and Jesse died because her son had a panic attack in the middle of that walker herd. And with Rick and Michonne being together, that's two strong, capable people together, and plus they understand one another. So I feel like they're the best combination to get together so far in the zombie apocalypse, next to Maggie and Glenn, obviously. And I'm sure there are some people who want Carol and Daryl to get together in the background as well. But in regards to Michonne being weaker because she had sex with Rick, no. Because Andrea is pretty strong in the comic books. Pretty strong. And she and Rick are kind of like shacked up at this point. And Carl calls Andrea Mom in the comics. I think that's about it, and I wanted to quickly mention that Heath and Denise are boyfriend and girlfriend in the comics, and something happens, and it's all Negan's fault, and you will see it in the show. I am more than sure that they're going to find a way to incorporate that into one of these episodes, and when you see it, don't say I didn't warn you, because it definitely upset the crap out of me after reading it. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to rate this video. I love you guys. I'll be back next week to review. I'm Sage Valentine, signing off. Bye, guys. Bye.